Ever pinch pennies all year for that one family vacation only to feel the budget blues afterwards? If so, I was just like you. After 3 vacationless years, I stumbled on credit card rewards travel and cracked the code to amazing vacations that I could actually afford.
Welcome to Wonderland on Points. In this podcast, you will discover how opening credit cards strategically can save you thousands on travel. We're not just dreamers anymore. We're 2 adventurous moms turning dreams into reality. Join us as we spill all the points and miles secrets.
And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to spend $1 million to earn 1,000,000 points. Traveling on credit card points isn't reserved for those with overflowing bank accounts. It's for everyday people like you and me, learning to turn routine expenses into free travel.
Consider us your points travel guides. This is Wonderland on Points. Let the adventure begin. Welcome back, everybody. We have a treat for you today. My name is Mary Ellen.
And I am Joanna. I don't know why I said that. I usually say Joe. I'm Joe, guys.
Joanna, whatever you want to call her, she's here. And she's had a wonderful 2024. I hope that you have as well. We are capping off this year with, I don't know, this could be one of our best episodes ever, especially for families who want to go on that dream trip to Hawaii, but want to do it for a budget. I love that this episode is so attainable for people on a budget.
I know, it blew my mind because I have discounted Hawaii. I'm like, nope, too expensive, not worth the points. There's better places in my mind, or cheaper places that are just as beautiful. She has completely changed my perspective on this. This episode has it all. It's got all of the excursions that you want to be doing, the prices, the points redemptions, where you want to stay, how you want to fly, and also, guys, from not the East Coast. She was from Atlanta, but my East Coast people, this is the episode for you. Everybody always talks about Hawaii in terms of West Coast, and that is just not the majority of us. Mary Ellen is East Coast. I am Midwest. This episode was perfect. It was exactly what we needed. I am super pumped about it. Can you tell? Can you tell I'm so excited?
I can tell. And I'm pumped too because it reinvigorated me to plan a trip to Hawaii for my family because I really did my kids and family wrong. We have mentioned this on the podcast. It's been a while. Last year sometime, I had a trip in August planned for us to go to Hawaii. I had all the hotels booked. I had the flights booked, except for the return flight. And then I waited too long. I missed out on the deal I was hoping for. And I was like, nope, we were only really doing it because it was a great deal. And then I thought, this isn't a good deal anymore. Now I'm paying more than I wanted to for flights. I just got all flustered and I canceled the whole trip. It's amazing that my family still talks to me. They're very sweet. They forgave me for dangling Hawaii like a carrot in front of them and then snatching it away. So now I'm going to have to get it back on our list.
I know. Well, I always say this, but since the wedding, everything got pushed a year and now we're looking at, a honeymoon at the end of 2025. Hawaii was not even on my list. I was more looking like in the Mexico area. Hawaii has now been put on the list because you know what? We are not fancy. And I think we could have a pretty amazing honeymoon. We just stay at the Hyatt place and then go out and do all of the things. Guys, this episode, this is for you. Even if you thought you didn't want to go to Hawaii, this episode is for you. And we just love Mary. She's just amazing.
She really is. She really is such a wealth of knowledge. And she is an exquisite, a very detailed planner, which is the best kind of person to have on the podcast because she really has all the details. So without further ado, let's let you hear from Mary.
Yes.
Today, we are so excited to be joined by Mary from Mary on the Map on Instagram. Mary has been traveling with points and miles for many, many years. She has small children and she is East Coast based like myself. So today we're going to get into how to travel to Hawaii with a family, very budget-friendly options, and from the East Coast, which I'm super excited about. So, Mary, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mary, real quick before we get started, tell everybody a little bit about your what you do for your day job, and then how long you've been doing points and miles.
Sure. So in my regular life, I'm a digital marketing consultant. So basically what that means is that I help small and mid-sized businesses create revenue opportunities so that they can, move their business forward using the latest and greatest in technology and digital tools. So I've been doing that for about 7 years. I work for myself, so that's nice. I get to be at home, working from home. But my passion and my side hustle, I guess you can call it, is Mary on the Map, which is mainly Instagram and a blog. And that's where I share all of my travels with my family of 4, my husband, and we have 2 boys who are now 4 and 6 years old. And we are definitely part-time travelers. My husband works a regular full-time job. My oldest is now in school, so we have to deal with school schedules.
Yep.
So I like to say that we take a lot of unsexy redemption trips because we're certainly not the people who are doing the lay flat business class seats, because does a 4-year-old really need to be in business class? I don't think so. We all fit nice and snug in economy. So we're stretching our points and miles as far as they can go to get our 2 to 3 yearly vacations as free as possible.
Yes.
We use other tactics, for our budgets as well to stretch them further. But points and miles is really what gets us to be able to take those, once in a lifetime bucket list vacations more than once in a lifetime.
Yes, I absolutely love that. We love an unsexy redemption here. We've never phrased it quite like that, but I really like that. When did you guys first get into points and miles? Everybody has that kind of story where they didn't know it was a thing usually, and then they found out, and then they're like, what? Is this real? Is this legal? And then they kind of fall into the rabbit hole. So tell us your points and miles story. How long have you been doing it?
Yeah, I was a dabbler for a really long time before I had more travel mouths to feed. So I started off with a Bank of America travel rewards credit card, which was basically like a venture card where you could just erase travel purchases. But I kind of realized quickly that that was a little bit limiting. I mean, Bank of America doesn't really have transfer partners or anything like that. So I moved on to Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is pretty much everybody's favorite travel card these days. And I had that for a really long time. And I was also kind of, just doing small redemptions here and there. I was single at this time, so it wasn't as expensive for me to travel by myself. I wasn't doing luxury travel or anything like that. I just wanted to get where I wanted to go and spend as little money as possible. So then when my husband came into the picture, we got married a little bit before the pandemic, and we did a little bit of, points and miles for our honeymoon, and that was really good. And then we sort of quickly had 2 kids, and then it was post-pandemic. And we realized quickly that we were going to need a lot more money to travel with 4 people than with 2.
Yes, sadly.
So that was really when we fell into the rabbit hole, because it was like, I still want to be able to take these vacations that we were taking before. And we were big travelers before. I mean, we went to Portugal. Our honeymoon was in the South Pacific. So we were doing these big, wonderful trips far away from where we live. And we still wanted to be able to travel like that. But we lost out on the lap baby years during the pandemic because
killer.
Yeah, really, really, really upsetting. I feel like we should get a credit for those
Yes.
or something.
Yes.
But, so we basically went from 2 travelers to 4 travelers in the span of pretty much the 2 years of the pandemic when people weren't really flying. So that was when we were like, okay, we've got to really get aggressive about this.
Well, today we're going to talk about getting to Oahu. All the Hawaiian islands could be their own episode. There's so much to do on each island. So we're going to just focus on an incredible trip that your family took to Oahu and giving some tips and ideas for how other people can recreate that trip for themselves. So first, let's talk about getting there. From the East Coast is a totally different ballgame than people going from California, West Coast cities. It's more expensive and it's a lot further. So tell us what airline you did, where you flew from, all those good details.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally right about that. It is a massive difference going from the East Coast than going from the West Coast. And Hawaii was a big bucket list trip for me because my parents had gone there on their honeymoon. I always wanted to go, but it felt really unattainable because it's so far and it's very expensive. I mean, islands in general are very expensive. So this was one of the first trips that I really tried to do 100% free. And my husband was a little bit on the fence about really going full into points and miles. And this was my trip that I was going to prove to him that
Yes.
it was going to be worth going all in. And he since is like totally convinced he's a great player too. But this was a trip that I was like, I'm going to show you that this is not illegal. We're not going to get in trouble. Like, your credit score is going to be great. Just trust me for this.
Yes.
And so he did. So we already had the Chase Sapphire Preferred, like I had said, and we both, in anticipation of this trip, ended up getting companion passes with Southwest with their credit card. So I did the traditional companion pass where you open one of the personal cards and one of the business cards, and you earn it for the calendar year that you got it and then the following calendar year. And he did one of the promotional Southwest companion passes that they've done the last couple of years in February.
Yep, love that.
So it'll be interesting to see if they do that again this year. But it's for one calendar year, February to February, and you only have to open one card.
Yeah.
So he just had to open one personal Southwest card for that. So we both earned Southwest companion passes for the year. So we were all in on pretty much domestic flights for that year.
Yes.
So this fell into that. And then I also opened the World of Hyatt personal card because we knew that that was going to be, you know, a great way to get our hotels for the fewest number of points. And I feel like Southwest and Hyatt in general is really such a great use over and over again strategy.
And repeat.
Totally. And it's great for us with little kids too, because our kids love a Hyatt place.
Yep.
They are obsessed. Every Hyatt place basically has a pool, free breakfast. The kids can be like a little bit noisy, and we're not worried about disrupting, you know, really luxury travelers or anything like that. So that's like the epitome of class for them. They're like all in on a Hyatt place.
Yes.
So that's great for us because we don't have to use that many points. So yeah, we were living in Atlanta at the time. We lived in Atlanta for about 6 years for my husband's job. We're both originally from the Northeast. So we're back in the Northeast outside of Philadelphia now. So that's a whole other strategy, learning a new airport. But we flew from Atlanta to Honolulu on Southwest. We had a layover in Las Vegas. It was a daytime flight. So the layover was actually great for us because the kids got to get out of the plane, stretch their legs a little bit. And then they both slept a little bit on the second portion of the flight where you're flying over the ocean. So, you know, we got there, we left in the morning, and with the time change, we got there in the afternoon. So It was a day of travel, but we still had time when we got there to actually enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
And to get there, we used about 35,000 Southwest points per person, but we only had to use that for me and my husband.
Right.
Because the kids were both, you know,
companions
free with the companion pass. So while that amount, I think for Southwest sounds like a lot, you know, getting from the East Coast to Hawaii, that was like by far the cheapest way to do it.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you think about like a trip to Europe where you don't have a companion pass and how much you would spend to get 4 people to Europe, you know, points wise, like, what is that, 70,000 points total that you guys use to fly a family of 4 from Atlanta to Hawaii? That sounds like a fantastic redemption. I mean, I don't know what the cash rates would be on a flight like that, but huge value, I would say, there.
I did actually look up the cash rate because I wanted to check back and see what we would have saved. I'm not good at keeping track of what we saved. I know some people keep spreadsheets, but I don't have time for that. But the flight from Atlanta to Honolulu would have been $486 a person. So, you know, that times 4 without the companion pass, that would have been, you know, several $1,000s just for a one-way flight.
Yeah.
So that's not really realistic for most families.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And then you've got to do the hotel, and then you've got to get on the way back. Like, no, that's amazing.
Did you fly into Honolulu? Is that where you guys flew into? Atlanta to Honolulu? Okay. You stayed in Honolulu, right? Is that where you based yourself for the trip?
Yeah, so we flew into Honolulu, which is on Oahu. There's the four main Hawaiian islands that people travel to are Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island. And we strategically chose Oahu and Maui for this trip just based on the activities. The stuff to do on Kauai and the Big Island are more adventurous, and we thought it would be better for when our kids were older. So again, being able to do a bucket list trip like Hawaii from the East Coast more than once, we're already planning on going back. But we chose Oahu and we flew into Honolulu, and then we ended up staying in Waikiki. So we stayed at the Hyatt Place Waikiki Beach for 4 nights, which is a lovely property. They did the whole like lays when you come in over your head. And I was like, that was the quintessential thing that I was like, please let them give me a lay. I want a lay so bad. Is someone going to give me a lay? And we did it right when we arrived to the hotel. And I was so excited. I was like recording everything like a crazy tourist. And they were made of real flowers. And the first thing that my littlest said when he got the lay put over him was, "This is wet." It's because the flowers were real. And I was like, don't ruin this moment for me.
He's like, this isn't the plastic ones from the dollar store.
Exactly.
That's
exactly. So yeah, the property is lovely. It's walking distance to Queen Beach, which is one of the biggest beaches in Waikiki, and the hotel offers beach chairs and umbrellas and things like that on a first come first serve basis if you want to take them for the day for free. If you want to take them for the day and go walk down to the beach, they also gave out water bottles, which I thought was really nice, reusable water bottles to try to reduce waste on the island.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and you get the standard things that you get with a Hyatt Place. So we had a bedroom with 2 beds and a fold-out couch. We were upgraded to a mountain view room, which was really nice. We had a view of Diamond Head, which is kind of the most well-known. I think it's a erupted volcano on Oahu. So we had a beautiful view of that, and we didn't pay for that. We paid for a city view and got upgraded because I have Explorer status with Hyatt. So that was really nice. But, they had a small pool that was outdoors that the kids swam in several times. They have free breakfast every day. The parking is not included, and you do need a car to get around the island if you're going to be really exploring. So I think the parking was relatively on the expensive side, which I had heard from people that happens in Hawaii. It was like $50 a day.
Okay.
You can definitely find garages if you want to, but we were just like out of ease, we're just going to park here.
Yeah.
And if you do have a higher status with Hyatt, you would get free parking. If you had the highest tier status, globalist, you'd get free parking, but we didn't have that. So it was fine though. We really loved the hotel. It was 15,000 points per night, which is I think on the higher end for a Hyatt Place, but because you're walking distance from the beach, and it's in Hawaii, we really didn't think that was that bad. And when you redeem points for a stay with Hyatt, there's no cash taxes or resort fees or anything like that. So our stay for the 4 nights was completely free with the exception of parking.
Right. Truly is $0. And honestly, 15,000, like I would for some reason expect even a Hyatt Place, the one in Hawaii, I would expect to be crazy. 20,000 plus a night, 15,000 a night to stay in Hawaii, walking distance with the beach. I'm assuming free breakfast. Yeah, I am not a fancy person. It sounds nice. The Park Hyatt sounds great or whatever, but making those points stretch further and being able to fit your whole family in one room is such a gift. And free breakfast is such a gift when you've got multiple mouths to feed. That is really exciting.
Yeah, we love the space too. I mean, we stay at Hyatt's a lot because the redemptions are so much lower than some of the other brands.
Yes.
And their brands like Hyatt Place, Hyatt House, you get a lot more space. I mean, they're not luxury by any means. They're the Hyatt budget brands. But some Hyatt houses, you have a full kitchen. That makes a huge difference when you've got little kids that all they really want is peanut butter and jelly every day.
Yep.
So, you can pop over to a store and get bread and peanut butter and jelly, and then you're not wasting, $25 on a lunch out that they won't even eat. And at the Hyatt places, there's always a larger footprint of the room too. They're usually two beds and then a fold out sofa.
Yes.
So you just get that little extra space really does make a big difference when you're putting 4 people in a room. We've stayed in other hotels where it's like the 2 standard queen size beds and like a bathroom. And it's fine for us. Our kids are little, but it's not our choice. If we have the option, we always want to get that little bit of extra space.
I love that Hyatt place is still so affordable and to be in such a great location, because like over here in Maryland at Ocean City, Maryland, there is a Hyatt place and they have jacked its category up so high because it's oceanfront. But come on, this is Ocean City, Maryland. It does not need to be so ridiculously high priced. But you know how every spring it seems like Hyatt kind of changes their categories. Really popular hotels get bumped up in category. And so I guess that's what happened with Ocean City. But I'm really glad to hear that in Hawaii, that one is still such a great deal.
I absolutely love this Hyatt redemption and everything you said, Mary Ellen, about how it's stayed reasonable. But I think a lot of times Hawaii has this kind of FOMO aspect to it where you have to do the fancy resort and you have to, spend a ton of money or a ton of points. And this really, to me, demonstrates that you truly do not have to do that resort experience, right? I mean, I imagine there's so much to do off property that it doesn't really matter where you're staying.
Yeah, that was one of the main reasons why we chose what we chose in the Hyatt place. In addition to that, it's usually what works for our families. There was also a Hyatt Centric, which is Hyatt's brand that's more like a hip city for like young people kind of a thing. And that was a similar number of points to redeem, but the rooms weren't as big. And even though they're newer, we decided not to go with that. And then there's, I believe it's a Hyatt Regency on the beach in Waikiki Beach, which has a lot of people stay there because it has amazing ocean views. But again, we knew we weren't going to spend a lot of time in the hotel. So we didn't really want to spend so many more points when we were going to be moving around the island so much. And pretty much every day we were in the car moving around to different parts of the island doing different things. The north shore of the island is kind of the opposite end from where we were staying. And that's sort of famous. I don't know if you've ever seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but that's where they filmed that.
I love that movie.
So,
I love that movie.
That movie is really good.
So funny.
So we actually went to the resort where they filmed that because I wanted to be able to see it, and there's good snorkeling there.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, well, let's go over there one day. But I mean, that's, a good about hour and a half, 2-hour drive from where we were staying. So we knew if we were going over there, that was going to be a whole day. There was another day that we did Hanauma Bay, which is a marine reserve park, and it's totally preserved by the government. So it's very regulated, very clean. And you have to do this online lottery system to get tickets for that.
Wow.
So it's sort of competitive. And once you get the tickets to go for the day, you want to stay as long as you want to stay.
Yeah.
And that was about a 20 or 30 minute drive from where we were staying. So we knew that was going to take up a lot of our time. My husband also really wanted to go to Pearl Harbor. He's a history buff. I was a little bit nervous about taking kids to Pearl Harbor, but it ended up being a great experience. So I can certainly share info about that too. And then we also hiked Diamond Head. So that took up some time. So we just had so many plans of things to do that were not just sitting on the beach, which of course you can. You absolutely can sit on the beaches in Hawaii. They're beautiful. Sunbathing is a thing that people choose to do. But we didn't know when we were going to come back. So we were kind of like, let's do the things we want to do.
Absolutely.
And we did all of them.
That is amazing. And I guess the piece of all of those excursions is that you needed a car. So we should probably talk about car rentals a little bit. And then I think we move on and talk about the excursions and costs and that kind of stuff. So talk us through the process of renting the car. Did you have any issues? Which company did you use? Did you do it through a portal like Capital One and redeem your points? Did you do it as a points earning opportunity? Start to finish through the rental process.
So for our car rental, we ended up going with Turo, which is sort of like Airbnb for cars. It's basically car rentals by the owner.
Yes.
And that is one of the more popular ways to rent cars in Hawaii because there are not a lot of rental cars available.
Okay.
So if you go through a traditional rental car service in Hawaii, like Hertz or Enterprise or something like that, it can be a lot more expensive than Turo, which was one of the reasons that we chose it. It was the price point was just so much better. We knew we were going to need the same car for multiple days.
Mhm.
And so we ended up going in that direction. And like you said, we usually use our points and miles to get there and for the stay. And then we use the expenses that we have during the time that we're there as points earning opportunities. So,
Yes.
our restaurants will use a card that we're going to get 3 or 4x on restaurants. We book things through Viator
Yes.
so that, we can get additional points that way. So we kind of see it that way. That's sort of our approach to it. But yeah, for Turo, we had a great experience. It was our first time ever using them. The person that we rented the car from was a native Hawaiian, and he was very kind and very gracious. He gave us a gift when he met us at the airport. He met us like in the parking lot at the airport and was like, "Here you go. Here's my car."
Oh.
And we were like, I was kind of like, how's he going to get home? Like, where is he going to go now?
Yeah,
And my husband was like, I'm sure he's got a ride or something. But I was like, he's just going now. It just seemed kind of crazy to me. Like, where is this guy going to go
Should
now?
we drop you off at your house?
I know. It's like, do you know where you're going now? Like, of course he does. He lives there. But I was just like, okay, what happens now? We just he hands us the keys. We just take it. And, he offered to tell us about things to do on the island that he likes. He gave us some restaurant recommendations. He gave us a big box of chocolate covered macadamia nuts, which are like Hawaiian, like a popular Hawaiian souvenir. And yeah, he was just so nice. And the thing that I was the most worried about was at the end when we turned the car back into him, because I have little kids. There were crumbs in the back. There was sand in the back. We had no way to clean this car. And I was like, should we stop at a car wash and vacuum it out? Like, I feel really bad. I don't want to hand this car back into the sky this way. Which, with a car rental place, it's okay for you to do that because you know that they're going to clean it. We communicated with him and he was like, no, that's totally fine. Like, I expect that as somebody renting the car, I will clean the car. It's like part of the fees.
Okay.
So he was totally fine with there being like goldfish in the back. And I was like shoveling things out as much as possible, but he was okay with it. And we handed him back the car and he immediately gave us 5 stars.
Love
Amazing.
it.
So
I absolutely,
yeah, we had a great experience with it.
I love Turo. A lot of people are like, I'm not going to use Turo because I don't get insurance with my credit cards. Turo has insurance options baked into the rental and they're really not that expensive. What did you guys do in terms of coverage on the car?
Yeah, we did go with the insurance that Turo offers. You can, I think in addition to there's some built-in insurance that comes with it, and then you can like upgrade the insurance. We did do that just in case, but we didn't have any problems at all. We were parking it in a parking garage overnight. So, there was no risk of anything happening to it then. And we didn't find any of the driving to be challenging on the island either. The infrastructure is really very similar to the mainland US with highways with multiple lanes. Everything is well marked. You're not like driving on dirt roads or anything like that in Oahu. So it's pretty much, the same infrastructure you can expect driving in like the mainland US. So.
If you can survive driving in Atlanta and in Philly, then yeah, I don't think Hawaii was a problem.
Not at all. And funnily enough, the car that we rented is actually the same car that we have at home.
Oh.
So we knew this car backwards and forwards. I could get it into like a tiny little spot if I had to.
That's awesome.
We were good to go.
Do you remember how much you paid for the time you were there?
So we rented a mid-size SUV and it was $45 a day.
That's awesome. That's a great price.
I love that you can usually find Turo on Chase offers, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's actually an Amex offer right now. It's like, I think it's like $40 off of a $200 rental or something like that, which is honestly, I've never even had a Turo rental cost me $200. Like, that's how affordable they are. But we're getting a Turo car in San Diego coming up. It is my absolute favorite way to book cars.
Okay, so now we know that you have this fabulous SUV from Turo. Let's get into some of the activities that you guys did. I was looking through your Instagram, and everybody should go over there and take a look because you did a good job making reels for the various activities that you guys explored. And there was one that was really fun if you have kids who love dinosaurs or are fans of Jurassic Park. Tell us about that one because I think anybody with kids would love to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was the Jungle Expedition Tour at Kualoa Ranch. And Kualoa Ranch is this massive expanse of land on Oahu that has such a varying landscape. It meets the sea, so you can see the sea and have like this amazing view there. And then there's mountains and there's native flora and fauna growing with fruit that at some points of the year you can pick off the trees and eat during the tours. They have horseback riding, they have jeep tours, they have local Hawaiian makers and artisans that have a whole market set up there. So you can buy locally made foods and breads and things like that.
Oh
So
my
it's really
gosh.
like a whole cultural experience just in one place. But they also have all different kinds of tours. They have ATV tours, horseback riding tours. We did an open air Jeep tour, which there are certain age restrictions on some of the various tours. So our tour was specifically, you had to be at least 3 years or older, which was
Okay.
fine for us, but no babies, no pregnant women because the Jeep can, bounce a little bit.
Mm.
But it was so much fun. The kids loved being in this big open air Jeep, driving up and down hills and mountains. And the beginning of the tour, they take you to this area of the land where they have these Hawaiian deity sculptures and a native Hawaiian like house set up. So you can kind of see
Oh.
like what it looked like when they first arrived and how they lived. And they gave a really good like cultural background. And it's 90 minutes. You're driving all throughout the property, taking in the amazing views. You get out a couple of times to do hikes and things like that. There's Jurassic World and some of the Jurassic Park series was filmed there. So you got to see the set, which is still set up. The new Jumanji movie was also filmed there, and Kong and a couple of other
Oh,
things.
wow.
So they have a whole tour that's just like the movies tour where you're just doing the sets, but we got to do that as part of our Jeep tour as well. So it was just incredible. The views were amazing. The guide the whole time is on a microphone talking to you about the land and their culture and the different things that you're passing. And one of the things that was a great bonus is that every single time that you stop, the guides offered to take pictures of your group. So we got so many family pictures on that
Yes.
tour. And anybody who does not travel with a photographer with them knows that it's basically impossible to get like proof of mom
Where's
shots because
mom?
you're the one
Where is
you're the
she?
one taking all the photos and you're not in any of them. So that was really nice that every single time that we stopped, they were like, "Who wants a picture? This is the best place for it." So we really enjoyed that. And the staff there is like super friendly, really nice. So I highly recommend doing that. We really enjoyed it.
That place has been on my bucket list forever. We are a big Jurassic Park family over here. My daughter loves it. I love it. We watch the movies every single year, at least once. And I'm really scared to ask how much this costs, though. I'm really scared.
Hey guys, we're going to get right back to the rest of this episode, but before we do, we have a request.
Look, if you've ever gotten any value from this show and you want it to continue to grow and to continue to serve you and have access to knowledgeable guests, if you could leave us a rating and a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that would be completely amazing.
These ratings and reviews go such a long way into attracting new podcast listeners and helping us bring guests on the show. It makes us so excited to hear how we are helping all of you reach your travel goals.
It really does. And if you're feeling up to it, take a screenshot of your review after you post it and share it to your own Instagram. And don't forget to tag us at Wonderland on Points Podcast. We would love to reshare it in our own stories.
Yes, we sure would. And if you haven't already, go ahead and leave that rating and a review right now. Okay, let's get back to the show.
So the tour that we did wasn't that bad. It was our youngest was free, so that was really nice. Children 3 and under are free. The child ticket for our older son was about $40, and then it was $55 for adults.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. No, it wasn't super expensive. And like I said, that was just our tour. They do different ones, so I don't know the price of the other ones, but since you have an older child, you could do the ATV tour where you're like driving past dinosaur bones and stuff.
That's awesome. And you know what? My daughter and I are big horseback riders, and I've kind of made it a mission to ride horses like everywhere we go. So, I mean, who doesn't want to ride horses through the place where Jurassic Park was filmed? That one, though, is probably crazy expensive. So we'll see if that ever happens. But still, one can dream. That's why we use points and miles. So we can splurge.
It's a points earning opportunity.
Absolutely. Did you book that through Viator or directly through the company?
We booked it directly through the company, but they do often have the various tours available on Viator. So, that's another way that you can earn extra points on your booking.
Okay, that's awesome.
Tell me a little bit about what there is to do at Waimea Valley. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, Waimea Valley. So this is one of my favorite things that we did. And I keep telling people that if there's only one thing you have time to do in Oahu, like if you're leaving from there on a cruise or something like that, this is the place to go because it literally has everything that you would want or expect from Hawaii. It has the cultural aspect, it has the beautiful views, it has the flowers, and it has people playing ukuleles, there are hula dancers, cultural demonstrations, this amazing waterfall you can swim in. So it kind of has all of the things wrapped into one neat little bow in one place. It's again another protected area of the island, so like no building can happen there or anything like that. In addition to there being this like wonderful waterfall that you can swim in at various times of the year, there's also a huge botanical gardens and there's leisurely walks and hikes. So there's Hawaii's landscape is kind of mountainous. So you can, walk up into the hills and there's different parts of the botanical gardens you can see up there. But you sort of enter from the front, and as you're walking down the path to the waterfall, there's all kinds of things going on either side of the path. So some areas there might be somebody talking about the different things in the botanical gardens and giving a tour. One of the ones that we stopped in on, the tour guide was talking about breadfruit and how important that is to Native Hawaiians and like the different things that they brought when they came, because, Hawaii was populated by people who came from Polynesia, other islands, the like big explorers in the canoes, basically out in the Pacific Ocean.
Crazy.
So all of the islands in the South Pacific are basically like populated by the same original voyagers who decided to leave one of the islands, which I don't know exactly which island it was, but my understanding is that it's possibly like New Zealand, and like the Maori people that came from New Zealand are like the originals, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But it's all these same people who populated all of those islands. So Fiji, Tonga, French Polynesia, Hawaii, it was all the same. Like if you know Moana.
Well, I was just, obviously I'm sitting here singing Moana in my head now. You said Voyagers, and we were off.
Yes, Voyagers.
It was all those same people who like literally built a canoe from a tree and put a chicken and a pig in a boat and some plants. And they were like, see you, maybe never. I'll see what I find. Like, I can't even imagine.
It's so cool.
Like doing that.
So
you
brave.
have to be so brave, so bold. But anyway, so they were talking about some of the plants that were brought by the original Native Hawaiians that first like populated Hawaii. And so that was really interesting. And they have local musicians who are, playing like the ukulele and different instruments and singing these like beautiful melodic songs. And you can participate in lei making. You can do a hula lesson. And they have also structures all throughout the grounds that show you how people lived when they first populated Hawaii. And then you do all of that, and then you get to the end, and there's this amazing waterfall that you can swim in if you want to.
Incredible.
You don't have to. Yeah, they provide life jackets. So it's just like this great experience. If you don't feel like doing the walk, or if you can't take the walk, there is a shuttle that you can take from the front to the waterfall. So they make it so accommodating for people. And again, just a really lovely experience. The walking path is shaded by all of these like native trees. So you have the beautiful sun peeking through as you're walking. It was just so relaxing.
Sounds divine.
Yes.
Yes. My younger son fell asleep in the stroller actually on the walk there because it was just so peaceful.
That's lovely. What does that place cost? I feel like this is the question I have to ask every single time I hear something amazing. I'm like, okay, hit me with the numbers. What does it cost?
Yeah, so same situation. Our 3-year-old was free, so that was really nice. Children 4 through 12 are $15 and adults are $25.
This is not okay. I have just gotten through planning the San Diego trip, and repeatedly I am like, how is everything like 60, 70, $80 a person? And by the way, adult usually starts at like 12, which is insane to me. I am shocked by these numbers you keep giving me. I would have thought all the islands of Hawaii would just have these extremely inflated prices because tourists will pay them, but these sound reasonable to me.
So I think there are some things that are going to be more expensive, like, traditional car rentals. If you're going to do like ride shares, Uber and Lyft, those are more expensive than you're going to find on the mainland because gas is so much more expensive
Mm-hmm.
because it is. Food can be more expensive than it is on the mainland because, again, they have to get things there by air or by sea. But the excursions themselves on the island, the I think that in general, what I found I always love to talk to like native people as much as possible. So we would pull up to every little fruit stand that we saw.
Yeah.
Like there are so many people who just grow fruit on their properties and like native trees. And then they'll have a little stand where they'll sell fruit or they'll make you a smoothie or something. And I was like, go to every single one of these. This is the freshest fruit in the world.
Yes.
Um, so I chatted with a lot of people who like live there and they're growing this fruit about like, how is it to live here? What do you think of being part of the US? Has your family been here a long time and that kind of a thing? And everyone had differing opinions, of course, like everybody has everywhere, but everybody was so nice about it. There
Mm.
was not anybody who was like, I'm here to like, shove my opinions down your throat or anything like that. They were just like delighted to talk about and share their culture.
Oh,
Um,
I love
and
that.
we've been to other places in the South Pacific too, and I just find Polynesian people in general, they're just happy. Like it's almost like in their DNA that I feel like they're happier than other people, probably because they live in paradise.
The
But
sunshine.
yeah,
That vitamin D is good for
they're
your mental health.
totally. But yeah, they're just like, I don't know, there's just a like an optimism about most of the ones that I've met that it's just so nice and refreshing.
I love that. That's my kind of people right there. I mean, I live in delusional optimism, my partner likes to tell me. But, anyways, I just love a people who exude joy. That sounds so, so lovely. I think there's a few other excursions that we want to talk about, but I do also want to talk about food and if you found any hacks. So, we could maybe we'll go into the food a little bit here and then we'll talk Diamond Head and Pearl Harbor as we're starting to wrap up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Did you find any cost saving ways to do food? Did you hit grocery stores? Did you make sandwiches? Did you load up from the breakfast buffet?
We did all of the above.
Yes.
So the breakfast buffet is at Hyatt Place, typically has the same things that the kids love. There's hot items like waffles and things like that aren't necessarily going to keep for later, but they always have dry cereal, usually that comes in its own individual packages.
Yep.
And they also usually have bread for toast, and they usually have little packets of like peanut butters and jellies
Yep.
and things like
We
that.
love it.
So or little cream cheeses. My kids like cream cheese sandwiches too, which
Delicious.
I'm like, okay.
Put some cucumber on it somehow. I'm done.
Well, they also had whole fruit. So they would have like whole bananas or whole apples. And muffins and things like that you could take away. So we would take things like that were like snacks or maybe like a sandwich for the kids for later for lunch. But we also went to the ABC stores in Hawaii, which is a chain that's all over Hawaii. And they're kind of like, sort of like a convenience store. They have a little bit of everything. There's souvenirs, clothes, and they also sell a lot of different foods. So there's prepackaged foods, there's souvenir kind of foods like the chocolate covered macadamia nuts I was talking about before. And a lot of them also have a hot and cold buffet where you can make yourself a salad or you can, take away like noodles or something like that. So we did that several times. We would either stop in there at night before we went back for the evening, or we would go there first thing in the morning and we would get something for lunch and get snacks for the day. And that's significantly less expensive than going to a restaurant. And a lot of the days that we were out on the road, it was just more convenient for us to like have a little picnic on the beach somewhere than it was for us to stop in.
Yeah.
But those fruit places on the side of the road, I also really enjoyed stopping at those, not only because, you're getting like fresh exotic fruits, but you're giving back to like the locals, like, they're getting the money.
Yes.
So my kids were all over the smoothies that some of those people were making. They were just like, get me another one. I'll take 100 smoothies. I don't care.
That sounds like my husband.
Yeah, so we did that a little bit too, and some of them are well known enough that you can find them by searching on Google Maps, but a
Wow.
lot of times you'll just pass one on your drive and be like, "Hey, let's pull over here." I feel like having some coconut water, why not?
Amazing. So I guess you were smart enough to have like a cash pile with you for these, or did they happen to have card readers?
Some of them had card readers, some
Okay.
of them took Venmo.
Okay.
But we did bring cash as well for like if we needed it. I in my regular life never have cash on me. It's actually like a joke in our house
Oh, yeah.
that my son or something will ask for like $1 for a vending machine and I'm like, I do not have $1.
Nope. Never.
But when we travel, we usually try to carry a little bit of cash at least, just for some places that won't take cards. But yeah, I mean, some of the ones that are established and they have a spot for their business on Google Maps, they had Venmo and Stripe and things like that.
Oh, that's
So that
awesome.
made it easier.
Yeah.
There are so many incredible places to eat in Hawaii in general. So you can have these amazing, expensive experiences. And then there's also like cute little coffee shops that are local. And we went to a place that was fruit ice cream. So it was ice cream all made out of bananas basically.
Wow.
And then shave ice is something that is like a Hawaii staple. There's thousands of places to get shave ice and that's not very expensive either. So you can kind of snack your way too.
Yeah, I love a snack trip. That's really my preferred method of eating.
Did you guys feel like it was necessary to do one of the expensive luau's? Because those are the meals that you go to Hawaii, you think, oh, we have to do the luau experience, but they are crazy expensive. I mean, I guess you're paying for both the food and the entertainment, but they can be, $100 a person easily. So did you guys do a luau, or did you feel like you got the complete Hawaii experience without the need to break the bank on one of those luau's?
We did end up doing a luau when we were in Maui because it was my birthday and that was like the thing I asked for my birthday. So we actually had family and friends contribute to the luau pot instead of getting me presents. Because I was like, this is what I want to do for my birthday. It was actually on my birthday too. So I was like, don't buy me anything. Just give us like $20, whatever you were going to spend on me for this luau. That's all I want. But we did end up finding one on Maui where the children both of our kids were free.
Wow.
I think it was kids under 6 were free. So that makes like a huge difference. And for people who have little kids who are like, oh, I'll take them to Hawaii when they're older, there's a lot of freebies for the young kids.
Yeah.
So, get them over there younger and then you don't have to pay for as much stuff. But on Oahu, we didn't do one because we knew we were going to be doing one in Maui. But there is a little bit of like a hack for that. If you go to the Polynesian Cultural Center on Oahu, which is a really popular tourist place, they actually have luau's kind of like throughout the day. And they also have demonstrations from all of the other Polynesian islands. So you'll get like a Tongan demonstration and a Fijian demonstration in addition to the Hawaiian stuff. And you just pay for your entry there. There's no meal or anything associated. So you get to kind of see the luau performances without having the high price tag of going to like a luau where, you're being served a multi-course meal in addition to the entertainment.
I like that because
perfect.
My kids are picky eaters. We have food allergies. I don't really want to pay. They're not going to be free anymore. At least some of them are old enough that I'd have to pay for them. And I almost planned a trip to Hawaii. Now you're going to get me back doing that again. But when I was looking into it, I was like, man, I don't want to pay this much for two of them who it may not even be safe for them to eat the food, with their allergies and things. So that's a really great idea for families who don't want to go all in on that big price tag.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other things that you get to do when you're there too. You could easily spend a whole day there because they also have demonstrations where you can like weave a hat with like palm fronds and things like that. So really fun stuff for kids to do that's much more interactive. And then you're kind of learning about all of the cultures of the Polynesian instead of just the Hawaiians, which is nice. We always love to do educational stuff like that. I think it's important if our kids are going to be travelers who are going to all of these places that they understand that like these people have different practices than us, but all people are people.
Yes.
So we try to get in cultural things like that and explain to them, like, this is why they do it like this. And they live from the land and they want to be harmonious with nature. And, you know, they believe in many different gods and goddesses. And so we try to get that educational aspect in too, which the Polynesian Cultural Center does a really good job of that.
That's so awesome. It's kind of funny because I've kind of discounted Hawaii. It's like everyone wants to go there. I'm like, it's far, it's expensive, it's touristy. You have just reawakened a desire for me to go to Hawaii because, first of all, shockingly affordable. Second of all of these activities do not sound super touristy to me. They sound like extremely informative and educational and incredible. Really, I am like probably going to spend the rest of today down a Hawaii rabbit hole, which I don't need to be doing with my time, but it's happening. It's happening. So as we start to kind of wrap it up here, let's talk about the Diamond Head hike. And if you think that's something that you should do with young kids, can they handle it? And then we'll wrap up with Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, so we really enjoyed the Diamond Head hike, but I was on the fence about it before we went and did it because I was reading a lot of mixed things online and I was kind of getting mixed information from other people as well. I unfortunately was not able to find another family that had the same makeup as ours to ask them about the hike. I was only really able to talk to people who either had older kids or babies. And it's kind of a big difference if you have, you know, 7 or 8-year-olds or you have a baby in a baby carrier versus a 3-year-old who is a flight risk and might try to like fling themselves off a mountain.
For sure.
So we are regular hikers. We hike at home. We hike on almost every trip that we take if there's a hiking opportunity. So our kids do have that background. They know how to behave themselves on a hike, but you know, you still have to worry about safety and things like that.
Yes.
So we love the hike. We would absolutely recommend it with the caveats of if you have kids who have never hiked before, this is probably not the first one you want to do. So if you're planning to hike Diamond Head in Hawaii, do a couple local hikes before that trip comes around so your kids kind of understand what's expected of them on a trail where you're on a mountain and there's a drop off on one side. Because one of the things that I found that wasn't my favorite thing about this hike is that the railings were not kid height. They basically had two railings kind of stacked on top of each other, but they were wide enough that a kid could easily fall right through them, but they would prevent an adult from falling. So if your kids got really close to them and they didn't know how to behave, they could easily kind of get into a sticky situation there. The other thing that families have to kind of be aware of is that it is fairly moderately challenging. So again, it took us about 2 hours round trip, like up and back, which I think is about the standard, but it could certainly take you longer than that if you're not used to hiking, and you're not used to hiking up and on varied terrain.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact like background of this, but there's all different kinds of things built into Diamond Head, like stairs and tunnels. It used to be, I think it was used at one point as like a military lookout, and that's why it has all of those built into it. So you get to a certain point in the hike where you're no longer on regular terrain and now you're enclosed in a pitch black tunnel. And then you come out and you're walking up vertical stairs basically. So it's kind of like throws you off a lot. So you have to be prepared for that as well. But that being said, our kids are used to hiking. We took a carrier for our little one, knowing that he might need to be carried some of the time, which he did. He needed to be carried, I would say probably about like 30% of the time.
Okay.
And, you know, the views from the top are just incredible. It's such an amazing, beautiful view. We saw people in all kinds of random footwear, flip-flops, high heels.
What?
So I think people do not realize that this is like a real hike. I think they think it's like, oh, this is touristy. which it is. I mean, it is a tourist attraction, but this is an actual mountain. So definitely prepare with the appropriate shoes, water, sunscreen, all of that. There's very little shade. Um,
Is it really
yeah, so
straight up most of the way? Like, is it very steep the whole hike?
I would say most of it is about like a 45-degree
Okay.
incline. The parts that are extremely steep, they've built stairs into, but they're pretty steep stairs and you got to like kind of hoist your leg up to the next one. Like our little kids were having trouble like getting one leg up the next stair because their legs aren't as long.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, we really enjoyed it. But one of the things that I see online a lot recommended is sunrise or sunset hikes at Diamond Head. And while I think that that would be beautiful, I would never recommend doing this hike in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's scary.
Absolutely. You need to be able to see your footing and, where you're putting your feet and what kind of terrain is coming
Mm.
next. And I think that if you're two adults that are experienced hikers, or if you have teenagers that are experienced hikers, or you have a baby in a carrier, sunset, sunrise all day sounds great. But with little kids, that would be a hard pass for me.
Absolutely. This question does not apply to everybody, but I happen to have people in my family who I love very much that have extreme height anxiety. If you're looking over the edge of a drop off, that's like too much for them. So, do you think that with the proximity of the drop off, would this hike be something that would like affect people with vertigo or, fear of heights?
Yeah, so my husband is actually also afraid of heights and he didn't love this. He
Okay.
thought that it was like a little bit too much. I mean, he did it. He got through it, but he was like, this wasn't my favorite that we've
That's
done.
very
And
good to
like I
know.
said, we hike all the time, but I think he prefers hikes that are like more
Yeah.
wooded. So you're not like looking out all the time to like the drop off. I'm not afraid of heights, so it didn't bother me at all. But he said that this wasn't his favorite as somebody who's afraid of heights.
That is extremely good to know.
Okay, so Pearl Harbor, in the interest of time, we're going to just say it would be very high on my priority list to go to Pearl Harbor. I love all things World War II history. I only read World War II fiction if I'm gonna historical fiction. I'm a D-Day baby. I feel like all these connections to World War II, and so I really like learning about it. So for me, it would be high on the list of the things that I want to do. But having done it and having done it with kids, if you had to give it a rating from 0 to 10, 0 is skip it, 10 is absolutely do not miss it. What do you rate Pearl Harbor?
I mean, I have to give it like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 because we had a great experience there and I was very nervous about it. My husband is like you, he's a history buff. So this was like, he even wasn't sure if we should go because he wasn't sure that the kids were going to be able to handle it. But what we learned as we started researching is that the Pearl Harbor site is huge. So it has so much more than the USS Arizona Memorial, which is the piece that I think most people think of when they think of Pearl Harbor. But there's also the Aviation Museum. There's the USS Missouri battleship that you can go inside. There's the Pacific Fleet Submarine Museum. And those are all not active memorials. So you could go to Pearl Harbor and you could do all of these other things on the grounds that have nothing to do with the memorial if you're worried at all about how your kids can handle a memorial.
Mm.
But that being said, we did do the memorial. We did it first thing in the morning because we thought the crowds would be the lowest at that time, just in case our kids couldn't handle it. But we talked to them ahead of time about what we were going to be doing, where we were going, what was expected of them in terms of behavior. And they really did great with it. The part they struggled with the most was the movie you have to watch before you go to the memorial
Mm.
because it was a little bit long for them. It was like 25 minutes long. And we sat in the back near the exit, but they were kind of like, is this over yet?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be watching this movie, but it's sort of like part of the process because you watch the movie and then you get on the boat to be taken out to the USS Arizona Memorial. And then you're there for a specific amount of time. I think it's 15 minutes that get to take in the memorial. And then they take you back on the same boat. So it's not really super long, but they did great. They were able to be quiet and maintain the appropriate tone. And it was good that we kind of did that first thing in the morning because then they got to run wild at the Aviation Museum.
Yes.
And that's much more of a hands-on experience. They have a whole hangar outdoors that's just old helicopters and planes and things like that. And they let the kids touch them. And there's a flight simulator inside. So
That's
there was
awesome.
an antique fire truck out front that they probably spent an hour in. They just were obsessed with this fire truck from the 1930s, and it was beautifully restored. So I really loved it. I totally would encourage people to go.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you think your kids would not be able to maintain the tone necessarily for the memorial, you can skip that
Yeah.
part.
That's great to know.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's on my list for sure as a also World War II history buff. I didn't even know that about you, Mary Ellen. 1 year in, and I'm still learning new things.
I'm a D-Day baby girl.
My grandpa was in the Navy in World War II, so it is close to my heart. Okay, we are wrapping up now. Last thing, if you were to give people tips or advice, they are trying to plan this trip and emulate what you have done. Any last pieces of advice or anything you would do differently?
I don't know that there was anything that I would do differently, because I feel like both me and my husband, were like extensive researchers, and we're also a little bit gun shy about spending our points before we're sure. So not, like I said, we are operating on school breaks and on his PTO. So we don't really have a lot of margin of error. So we do a lot of research ahead of time to make sure, like, this is the best time to do it. This is the best way that we can redeem our points, just to make sure that we've planned it out fully. And like I said, he's a great player too, and he participates in all of it. So that is really helpful, that I'm not just doing everything on my own. So we had kind of meticulously planned this out well ahead of time and pretty far in advance. We started, I think when I looked back, we went in February and we started booking everything in the previous March.
Wow.
So we started planning things pretty far ahead of time. And one thing to know, that some of these excursions we did do in Hawaii, they can sell out when it's a high tourist season. So you want to definitely make sure that you're looking for, like, how far ahead of time you have to buy tickets for some of the ones that might sell out. Like, some of them, they release the tickets like 60 days ahead of time, and you want to get them on that day if it's something you need to be about selling out. So it's good to plan this far ahead of time if you have specific things that you really must do. But in terms of the points and miles, I feel like we did the absolute best we could with what we had, and we got some pretty good redemptions for the value of our points. And like I said in the beginning, this was the first trip that I was like, I'm going to do this 100%, like, flights, hotels, and convince him that this is going to be like something that we should do all the time. And he's convinced.
It worked.
So
It worked.
So for anyone trying to do this, chase points are really going to be king here. That's going to be something that you're going to want to pursue and strategize, whether it's, a sapphire card sub or ink cards, or, earning a lot with those extra, the freedoms or the flex, and then also maximizing your referrals and maybe even opening some Hyatt cards. So just keep that in your mind as you're strategizing, because, you should always be opening cards with a plan, as we like to tell everyone here.
Mary, remind everybody where they can find you online.
So you can find me on Instagram at Mary on the Map. It's Mari on the Map. And the website is the same, maryonthemap.com.
And guys, you're definitely going to want to go over there, because she has reels. You've done such a fantastic job describing all of these places and things, but you have visuals too. You have videos on your Instagram page. So everybody go check those out, especially if you are thinking of planning this trip.
All of our Hawaii information and itineraries are also on the website too. So if you want to really go down into a rabbit hole and see what we planned and where it was and get more photos and things like that, that's all on my website too.
Awesome. I'm going to link your website and I'm going to link your Instagram in the show notes. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. I think this has been my favorite episode to date. Like, I am so excited about this now.
Okay, well, we need to go down a rabbit hole together after this, because I love talking about this stuff, and it makes me feel so happy when I can help somebody, like, plan their own trip. I feel
Yes.
like that's part of what we get out of this, like what all of us do. We get like some joy out of being like, yay, you followed my advice and you made it happen for yourself. Like you can do it too.
Mary, I actually had booked this Hyatt place before and started planning a Hawaii trip. My whole family, this was awful, thought we were going to Hawaii. And then I pulled the plug on it because I couldn't get a flight deal back. But as awful as that was to have to tell them we are no longer going to Hawaii, I'm glad that I didn't go before this episode and before talking with you, because now I think I can be so much more confident in my trip planning and knowing that I'm going to give us a great experience. So thank you. We will be taking your recommendations.
Thank you. You are welcome to steal my whole itinerary and ask me all the questions.
Oh, you are going to regret saying that. Your DMs are going to be crazy. Thank you again for...
I'm here for it.
We love this. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this show today, please consider writing us a review or clicking 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss an episode.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram or YouTube at Wonderland on Points Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Family Travel for the Win with the number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland.
If you're thinking about getting a new travel rewards credit card, consider using the links in our show notes. Using our links helps to support us and keep our podcast going so we can provide you with all the latest tips and tricks when it comes to traveling on points.
And if you aren't sure which card is right for you, shoot us an email at wonderlandonpoints@gmail.com, and we would be happy to walk you through a free card consultation. That's also a great place to send us all of your comments and questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you here next time.